I'm gonna book.
I must decide. The time is now.
I'll play Pyros. So he's not in a position to super collide me. Ooh, MC Tech. Ooh, that was foolish of me. Ooh. I didn't think about MC Tech. I should not have played that Pyros. That was silly. Yeah, that was just straight up mistake. Oops. Did not think that through. My bad. That's really, really bad. Yep. Alright. Well. Burns a card from him. I doubt he has another MC Tech. Brawl, yep. Mike Easter, thanks for the sub. Welcome to the Dragon Army. Wow, the Demolisher. Demolishing me.
By my frozen heart.
That was a bummer. Nice. Alright, well. Huh. I'm just gonna Zilliax this and get a guy, I think.
I must decide.
Take a Lich King.
Unity, precision,
I still have the Mossy in case he tries to defend himself with Giggles. Odin TV, thanks for the sub. Welcome to the Dragon Army. Yeah, that Pyros shenanigans sucks. Okay. Sure. Bump this, ping it. Lich King. So we've already gone through both Reckless Flurries and a Brawl. So there's one Brawl left for like legit mass removal. There's obviously there's a Dynomatic left and whatever the opponent is getting off of Collide. Okay. Sure. Well.
the end has come.
The end has come. So let's Astromancer. He has Still has like 2 more guys, right? No, he has no more guys from the assembly. He's already played 3.
My calculations are flawless.
You face Daraxus,
That's interesting.
Lord of the Burning Legion.
Let's protect guys from Collider.
Time is now.
So, gets delivery drone.
Access denied.
Okay.
Unity.
Another Ziliax! Stop!
By my frozen heart.
That was like his 3rd Ziliax! Still wasn't enough though. We still powered through. But yeah, I really like the games that involve Super Collider and Boom and stuff. There's just so many interesting things going on in the middle there. Like the positioning of trying to play around, how to actually answer those sort of things. Even though I just basically spewed off my Pyros to the MC Tech, the rest of the game was very interesting and involved a lot of cool decisions. Anyway, that is it for me for the stream for the laddering. It is time for the Omni Stoning. So do not go anywhere. We're going to be switching on over right now for some Omni Stone action. You're going to need to refresh, so be right back.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Omnistone. This is episode 60. Today is August 21st, 2018, and today is also the official launch of the Puzzle Lab for the Boomsday Project, so I hope you guys have been enjoying that. We'll talk a little bit about that, but before we go into it, let's go ahead and get to check in with our other hosts of the show. So, Kibler, how is life? How is that elemental mage working out for you, man?
It's been working out all right. I actually switched over to playing that after I hit Legend with Super Collider Odd Warrior this morning, which is quite the deck. Very powerful against a lot of what other people are playing right now, but wanted to switch things up, so.
Yeah, Odd Warrior, very powerful because there's just so much aggro on ladder, and also pretty decent against some of those late game decks as well. But we'll talk a little bit about meta throughout the episode. We have an entire section dedicated to it. We're also going to check in with Firebat. What's up, Firebat? How you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, I've been playing wacky decks too. I've been playing a lot of Egg Paladin and Mill Druid. It's been kind of the decks I've been playing across multiple servers to do. I'm trying to do the more than one server Legend grind this time, so. That's been pretty fun.
Good. Yeah. We'll talk all about that. But before we go into the meta discussion, let's go ahead and just cover the news. So today, as we mentioned, is the launch of the Puzzle Lab. It is a series of essentially puzzles. I mean, I don't know how a better way to describe it. It gives you opportunities to see if you can spot lethal, if you can spot the board clear, if you can survive based off the onslaught of your opponents or your AI rather. A lot of interesting, unique setups. If you guys played Duelist, for example, they had a lot of those in like a single player mode. You can just figure out lethal puzzles and whatnot. Very similar to that. And of course, it's free content, and you also get free packs for just logging in. So if you guys haven't already, just go ahead and claim your free packs. Did Firebat or Kibble, did you guys spoil it already? Because we're going to try to do a gameplay segment. Hope you guys didn't, dive into that content yet.
I have not played it at all yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
When I was streaming, everybody was like, "Why aren't you playing the new mode?" And I was like, "I can't. I got to do it on Omni." Later today, so.
Well, yeah, I actually know people who are asking me like, "Oh, why aren't you streaming the puzzles?" And part of it was that I feel like this is weird for like streamers. Because there's like the other single player content like Dungeon Run or Monster Hunt where it's like all over playable. And if you watch someone do it, it just is something that like gives you maybe some ideas to play it on your own. Whereas like with the puzzles, it's like it's just there's a solution, and once you watch someone do it, you know the solution. So it looks like a lot of people were streaming it, a lot of people were watching it, but it feels like weird content to me to like want to watch because it just kind of spoils it for you.
Yeah, very candidly, I'll just talk, or I guess transparently, one of the cool things about what I do at Twitch is to try to think about cool content. And so one of them was like the Dungeon Run Challenge from last year. And I was hearing about the Puzzle Labs, and I was thinking, oh, can we do something interesting with that? But it's exactly the thing that you pointed out. Like, if there was some kind of, say, streaming competition around it, it's like when one person solves it, everyone knows how to do it. So it's like the chat will tell you if you're a popular streamer. So people who are, obviously have a lot of fans, they'll probably even help those people. So that's to answer a question that I get very often, like, oh, when are we going to do something else like PV content related? Maybe not this time, but we'll see in the future. There's going to be wings, just like you guys see in a bunch of the other solo adventure content, like the Frozen Throne. We kind of have different, wings that get released based off that. So just check out all of these content, and of course, you get scientists, you get lab assistants. It's very flavorful. This is all kind of headed by Dave Kosak and his team. And if you guys don't know who Dave Kosak is, he is the mad scientist that introduced Boomsday Project to us and in his laboratory. So yeah, check it out. We're gonna be bookending the show with Who's Me Reign Supreme, with us trying to figure out the puzzles, and we'll try our best not to look at chat in case anyone already knows the answer. We got a couple more updates for you guys, mainly about HCT. There is a Pro Points update, so congratulations to the top 10 teams that finished in the money. We kind of mentioned that Omni Slash was in there, and actually I was mistaken. I thought they went from 8 to 7. They actually went from 8 to 9.
But, ruined.
Yeah, that was
top
definitely
9 team.
A mistake. But number 1 was Tempo Storm, number 2 was F2K, number 3 was Nordovan, Tempo Storm, of course, Muzzy, Saint Amnesiac, F2K, Board Control, Glacier, and Pheno, and then Nordovan with Yarla, NTR, and Hunter Race. Very solid top 10, and definitely really cool to see teams mattering a lot more. Omni Slash could pick it up a little bit, but I know that you guys were also kind of like, semi-competitive, like not hardcore. I know Sivka and they don't travel to like every single tour stop. But Firebat apparently is trying hard. He's double laddering. Is Firebat just trying hard for this season, or is it like something that come back for 2018 maybe? What's happening?
Well, my points don't really count anyway. So I'm not on the Omni / competitive team. Like, you can't change rosters mid-season. I'm just doing it because kind of enjoy it. I've taken a long break from it. I like doing the ladder grind every once in a while. I just don't like doing it every single month because every single month is brutal.
Yeah.
So, but here and there, it's still always fun to, compete a little bit. But I don't know if I want to go to all of the tour stops and grind for ladder every single month. I like the flexibility of just kind of bouncing in and out.
Yeah, you're casting a tour stop, right? You're casting DreamHack Montreal in
Yeah,
a couple weeks.
Yep.
That's right.
So I haven't
Firebat's
been,
getting back in the
in a long
caster's
time.
desk, taking all our jobs, getting all
Yeah,
those
so,
Reddit appreciation threads.
Getting all the
Yeah,
Reddit
yeah.
threads.
I gotta stream a little. I mean, not stream. I gotta play a lot of ladder to, get my game knowledge up because the caster's got to be, as good, if not better, than the players to be able to provide the insight and stuff.
Oh,
So yeah.
I'll stop you right there, Firebat. That is not necessary whatsoever. But it's obviously, all jokes aside, that's why people love hearing you cast. And of course, maybe Omni Slash can submit the B team. Apparently, a bunch of other rosters have B teams. Just have a secondary roster. So Firebat could see how many points you guys rack up for fun. It'd be really funny if you guys even somehow overtake the A team, which is quite the meme in itself. Let's see, a couple more news things, and then let's talk about meta, because this episode actually does have a lot of talking that we gotta get to. So the next thing we want to do is congratulate Young Woo on getting a job at Second Dinner. He was the senior producer, I believe, at Team 5, essentially basically making sure that stuff happens on time. All the art, the voices, the animations, the patches, etc. So he's like a big cog to make everything happen at Team 5. I think. I could be mistaken. And now he's joined Ben Broden crew, making videos and memeing. And they took a few other people too, like Jamara. So it seems like something big is in the works, but we just want to let people know. And that was a big surprise.
It is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it is kind of crazy, like, how many of the sort of recognizable faces of, the Hearthstone team are, like, moving on to other projects, and specifically to this team, Like,
Yes,
Ben was
yes.
obviously just the face of Hearthstone for however long, and then, I guess not that many people knew Hamilton, but, like, Youngwoo was pretty active on social media, and, a lot of people did know who he was. And, Jamara was one of the, most sort of, public-facing people on the art team too. So it's a lot of talented people who are moving over to do whatever they're doing there. We still don't know.
All those people you see at events shaking hands. When you like duel a dev at like BlizzCon, it's like always these kinds of guys. So it's very sad to see, but of course it's exciting to see what they're going to be working on. So we're not here to necessarily talk about the whys of what happened, but definitely wish them the best of luck. And then of course we have the last thing is HCT Buenos Aires, which happened this past weekend, where Lee from USA took down Monsanto. And, of course, Muzzy and Cosmo wrapped at the top 4. Really, really solid top 16 in general. Like, Amnesiac was there, Race was there. I think Kuonet might have been there as well. So it's just like a lot of really familiar faces that you guys may recognize from ACT. And a big congratulations. And this is kind of counting to the next season, so you may not see the impacts of it now, but overall there was some pretty interesting decks, interesting play. And we'll go ahead and use that as a segue to transition into the meta discussion. So for this week, we basically want to go through week 2 of our impressions. So I prepared a bunch of decks that we haven't seen from week 1. We may have mentioned it, but it's stuff that we haven't talked about. So everyone knows about Zulok, everyone knows about Odd Rogue, everyone knows about Malagos Druid, etc. Even Warlock and Control Warlock. But what are some of the decks that we haven't seen? And of course, if we're going to go class by class, feel free to just jump in, guys. But right on your screen, you see something really interesting already before we hop into class by class, is that Zoo Warlock by itself is more popular than any other individual class, let alone the Warlock class as a whole. You can see it just a tick above 14%, according to the Vicious Syndicate data report. That's a staggering amount of popularity. Yeah. Why do you think that is, Killer?
I mean, I think Zoo Warlock is very powerful. It's a deck that was already quite powerful and got a number of powerful tools in Doubling Imp, Soul Infusion, and the Solarium, which is... I remember before the set came out, I said, Solarium may just be the best legendary in the set. That card just gives you the ability to, have these incredibly explosive turns after you've already run out of resources. And it's also just a fairly straightforward deck, right? Like, this is the sort of deck that a lot of... Well, there's obviously, like, complexity in terms of actually optimizing your gameplay. This is the sort of thing that a lot of people will be like, oh, okay, I'll just put Zoo together and run it. It's not a particularly expensive deck. There's like only a couple of legendaries, so it's the sort of deck that is going to get popular pretty easily.
Yeah, well, you don't even need the legendaries to function perfectly well.
Right.
I mean, you don't need
Kelseth's
Leroy.
pretty
pretty good.
I did play against someone who had the 2/2 demon or the 2/2 with Death Rattle. Your demons get +1/+1, and their hand was like Voidwalker, Vulgar Homunculus. When I killed it, they coined it out, and I killed it, and then they like next 3 plays were just all these huge buff demons.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's basically
Better than Keleseth. You get them right away.
Yeah, that's.
Wait, did
that's
you win?
insane.
I actually forget if I won that game. I think I lost that game.
I've lost to that deck before too. It's a whiz-bang deck.
Is it the Whizbang deck?
It's a whiz-bang deck, yeah.
Oh,
I didn't even realize that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have not played a single game of Whizbang, so I wouldn't know.
I'm fairly certain you're probably against a whiz-bang opponent. I've played against that deck multiple times. You've always been whiz-bang.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, I completely agree. I think Zoo is a really good fundamental deck. It's a timeless deck, so most people can afford it by now if they've played Hearthstone for a while. It's effective. And people just like it too because it's one of the most interactive decks that's kind of out there right now. It's so much fundamental trades and board positioning, how you distribute your mana, etc. So I think a lot of people just really like it, even if they think it's a little bit too aggressive for their taste. It's a very popular deck. Is it the best deck though? I don't think so. It's definitely just a very solid top tier deck though. So let's go ahead and go class by class because Druid is public enemy number 1, and this is not going to be surprising that I have the most decks for Druid this week. One deck that we haven't talked about last week, but kind of mentioned it a little bit, was a big ramp Druid that has a bunch of just heavy top end, just basically ramp into just whatever you want to play and pull out big dragons. You don't necessarily need the Hadronox like Witching Hour Cube. You could play that Taunt Druid package if you want, but just having big stuff with Bright-Eyed Scout as like a backup ramp option just gives you a lot of really big swings onto the board. So, let's Firebird, let's go to you. Do you think this deck is really good? It's actually been brought to tournaments recently as well, not just representing on ladder. What do you think about it?
I think the deck list is probably maybe 4th or 5th best version of Druid you could bring. It's super vulnerable to a lot of counterplay and relies on a lot of good RNG and has a lot of brick draws where you auto lose. So and it has some draws where you auto win, but I think there's better forms of Druid that have similar matchups. Like I'd much rather be playing like if I wanted to beat up on control, with all my instead of like doing this to beat up on control by having tons of threats, you can beat up on control with Togwaggle Druid and swap decks against the control decks, giving yourself a 100% win rate against things like Jaina Mage and Control Warlock and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's like ineffective at what it does, and there's other Druid decks that do the same thing but can also beat aggro more often.
So you don't actually think this deck is that solid compared to some of the other Druid decks. Then why are people bringing it to tournaments? Like, are they just trying to specifically target the control? But you said there's better control busting Druids. So
there's better control busting Druids. There's better anti-aggro Druids. This would be like they want a Druid that's pretty good versus other Druids, I would guess. So they're not banning Druid, and that's where this kind of runs in. And then my argument to that is, why are you not banning Druid? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, just ban Druid instead of bringing a bad version of Druid.
Trying to target it, I guess.
People assume that their Druid's going to be banned, too, so that's another reason. Bring something kind of weird. So, in the instance where it's not banned, when people have a counterplay to Druid, this doesn't fall into that spectrum as easily.
True.
But I would not recommend Big Druid. The HS Replay Big Druid's got like 30% win rate against... Odd Rogue, and that's abysmal. And just like it does have a 60% win rate against other Druids. So the only reason I think would be to bring it to a tournament would be other Druids, but just ban Druid.
I also feel like this is of the Druid decks you can play. Like if you're looking to have a Druid deck that's good against control, I think Togwaggle is like Firebite said, so the nail in the coffin in that way. This if you play against say Control Warrior, like they can just kill all your stuff. You know, if you play against like a Baku Warrior deck, you know, you're just a deck that plays a bunch of guys. You know, then their deck is built to kill a bunch of guys. And yeah, sometimes you get the totally nuts ramp draw, and they don't have the time to build up their armor to Reckless Flurry you, or you know, don't find their brawls in time or whatever. But if you don't have like the O-card draw, like you're not actually beating a lot of the control decks either.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do think that this deck is gotten more consistent because of Biology Project. It is a deck that like doesn't really mind like giving their opponent crystals almost at any point in time, because just the stuff that they can play in response by ramping. Like, sure, you can play Henge Clan Thug and a couple of 1-drops, and then you know you get hit by like the Primordial Drakes or the Dragon Hatchers, and then you just get wiped out. You know, let alone Master Go Kart, just get blown. So Big Druid is definitely a big threat out there. I believe Tice hit top 10 Legend with it as well. So his list is a little bit different from this because I think he had like a swipe. This has Gloop Sprayer, which tends to be a little bit too greedy in my opinion. Just in case people have the dust or the cards necessary to craft this. Another Druid deck that is kind of like old but new. In fact, a lot of these decks that we haven't shown last week and we're kind of talking about week 2 is because they made a deep Legend run, but they might be familiar just with a couple new cards, is Token Druid. This deck seems to also have been popping up as like a weird meta call to try and really punish decks that aren't prepared for it. Doesn't really play too many new cards, but of course one of them that is included that's insanely powerful is Giggling Inventor, and this was kind of like an interesting low-hanging fruit. A lot of people thought Token Druid was going to be like a day 1 best deck. I think Zalay was even mentioning it. And then people kind of cooled off on the idea very quickly, and then now it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. Why do you think that is, Firebat?
People kind of cooled off of it because it was heavily targeted pretty quickly, and now that some of the decks that are targeting it are finding their way out of the meta, more of the Druids are doing other things, people aren't preparing for this, it's finding its way back in. What it does is very powerful, but it's very counterable. If you're versus a Control Warrior or a Control Warlock and you're playing this, you're going to die a lot. If you're versus anything else, though, I would say you're in a pretty good spot. So I think Token Druid may be one of the best forms of Druid, for sure. I think it's quite powerful. It's just something that is counterable. There are classes that kind of have those 90-10 matchups against it. You know, if you start throwing Defiles and Godfrey against this, then your tokens suddenly aren't doing a lot.
Yeah, from my experience, Token Druid was really good in the meta where there's a lot of like odd Paladin, you know, and there's like a way for Spreading Plague and Soul of the Forest type stuff to just blow your opponent out, or you could go toe-to-toe with those Board Flood decks. When Control Warlock is kind of rising up in popularity, and even Warlock kind of hanging in there, or you run into a single warrior with Warpath, you're in for a bad time. So definitely be mindful of how it's a pocket meta deck, I think, based off how everything is kind of in the ecosystem, but definitely also really solid. And then we have another old ghost from the previous meta in Spiteful Summoner Druid. This is a deck that board control piloted the top 15 Legend. And it's basically kind of got some of the same stuff, but it has a few different things like Tending Torrent to summon Treants or to help buff your board. And of course, a couple of the other tech that we've come to expect, Giggling Inventor, Blood Knight, etc. I have seen some lists also play Mulch Muncher with some of the Treant stuff, just to try to get more rush on the board, but don't know if that's actually that reliable. And then the Crystallizer at the very top was because it was tech against Malygos Druid, so you like gain a little bit of armor so that Alexstrasza wouldn't wreck you, just for reference.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. Any thoughts on this list at all, or just kind of passing comments on Spiteful Summoner Druid?
I haven't really played like against this particular list. I did run into like at least one Spiteful Druid. Every time I do run into Spiteful Druid, it's so surprising because there's so many other types of Druids. Like the only one that doesn't Wild Growth against you. You know, they play like a minion, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
My mind is blown here. But I do feel like the if people are mulliganing against those Wild Growth decks, you can often punish them pretty heavily if you are playing an aggressive version of Druid, because they're like, okay, I need to find these sort of proactive things to threaten you, and then they open up and start beating you up and Fungal Mancer you, and their entire plan goes out the window. So I think it has at least on ladder, it has the opponent's mulligan poorly against you advantage, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
It's super huge that they do that, and if you look at some of the data that's coming out, Spiteful Druid is rated as tier 1.
Yeah.
So It's even higher rated than all of the other forms of Druid, and it's because of what you guys said, that people are mulliganing ineffectually against it, and it's just mid-range decks are pretty good right now. There's a lot of decks that ignore the board. Zoo is really good. This deck performs a lot like Zoo in the early stages of the turn in the game, and then has that follow-up afterwards. It's basically the only difference. So it makes a lot of sense that it's finding a lot of success.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned Big Druid being like something that people aren't expecting. This deck, like Zoo Warlock, really powerful to punish those greedy decks. If you're playing against other Druids, if you're playing against, the Odd Warrior or whatnot, you have a really good time building the board, punishing them without overextending. Spiteful Druid, definitely an underrated deck. You heard it here on Omnistone if you haven't heard it already.
Yeah.
Enough Druids. Let's talk about some of the more exciting stuff. I have a cool hunter list here from Death Star. It's an old but definitely a reliable name in the hunter universe. And he plays a Dire Frenzy mid-range hunter, which counts as Ashmore. And he got to top 10 legend with it on stream. He streamed the entire run. He was and he was doing it in front of a few hundred viewers. So it definitely makes your climb a lot harder when people don't have the element, or when you don't have the element of surprise. So give me your first initial impressions based off this. What do you think, Kibler?
My first impression is what? I just look at this deck and I don't know. Like, his only early game target for Dire Frenzy is the one vicious Scalehide. It just feels like, it feels like he's really playing for like the mid to late game with this deck, and doesn't really have too much to like even necessarily. I mean, I guess like playing like double Grievous Bite can help keep you alive in the early turns against Zoo and such, and maybe that's like kind of what he's banking on to get to the sort of powerful late game turns, and then using Dire Frenzy to make the Kathrena recruit that much more powerful. And the Witchwood Pipers are super interesting. I'm just like literally breaking down this deck as I look at it, because I haven't ever seen this before. Like, the Pipers are really interesting because they give you a way to guarantee, if you have Scalehide Dire Frenzy, that you Piper and you're guaranteed to get another Scalehide, which can help you in a lot of aggressive matchups. But it does feel like it's hard to get there.
Yeah, I played this deck 10 times. Justar is a good friend of mine, so I watched his whole climb with it and then tried to emulate it myself. And I lost 10 times in a row. Died around turn 7 or 8 every single game. I did not beat a single Odd Rogue or Zoo. They just dominated me. Just Odd Rogue Zoo, Odd Rogue Zoo. It really beats up Control, though. If you watch some of his climb, Control has no chance against him, because a lot of times against Hunter, sometimes Control tries to burn you out over the top, and this deck has really good sustain and really good card draw. So you're very good at finding Rexar, very good at utilizing Rexar effectively. You can even use Dire Frenzy on Rexar Beasts and do really cool stuff. So you kind of never lose against Control. It has a kind of like a quest roguey feel, and your quest is to make the Scalehide thing into the 4/6 Rush Lifesteal. And once you do that, then you just keep playing 4/6 Rush Lifesteals, kind of like playing 4/4 Lifesteals in Quest Rogue. But getting to there is really hard, and so against aggro I was failing to do that a lot. But it really beats up Control quite well.
Yeah, so when we show these kinds of deck lists, remember that they're played. Part of the reason why we show them at top legend is because it shows you that there's a lot of viability potentially for this deck on ladder, but also because when you start hitting those top ends of legend, there's also a specific meta that people are also playing. So if everyone kind of universally agrees, like, oh, Malygos Druid is like the best deck, or if everyone's playing Odd Warrior, everyone's playing Control Warlock, etc., that's where certain decks can flourish. So I think this could be exactly that. If you're going to go up against the wide field at rank 10 to 5 around there, this could definitely struggle a lot more. But I mean, at the same time, I think it's also like a unique thing to Death Star, because he understands how to pilot these decks a lot better than we do when we first picked him.
Right. He was farming Mally Druids with it. So he's able to take down Mally Druids because you get that extra sustain, which is really important against Mally Druid, because then it requires them to do more setup turns to be able to burst you. And so you have the Mossy Horror in there to deny some of their setup turns as well. So it's got a lot of tech that helps it be able to beat the Mally Druids quite nicely, and he was winning against the other Death Rattle Hunters, which were quite popular at the time. But yeah, the top legend metagame is usually very different than other forms of the metagame, and oftentimes a lot less hyper aggro at the near top ends. It's more of the control-y stuff.
Yeah, well, especially because at that at that range, people can play whatever they want. A lot of times at lower ranks, people are kind of constricted based off their budget, like their dust, and they only can play like 3 or 4 decks. So that's also why I think people gravitate towards Zoo and Odd Rogue, excuse me. We do have another Hunter deck. It is a Spell Hunter. This one is kind of like basically a follow-up to what we were saying last week. People have generally agreed that the Subject 9 deck, while definitely can post some really good results, feels a little bit clunky at times. So a lot of people have been just siding with Spell Hunter. And you saw this with very good performances in HCT Buenos Aires. I think Cosmo got top 4 with Spell Hunter. So kind of, if you guys missed the To My Side memes and Rock Delar, definitely bust them out because they're here to play. And the new card that they're using is Secret Plan, the 1-mana Discovered Secrets, which is pretty solid for this deck. Let's go to Mage. Mage, I would have put Kibler's Elemental Mage here, but, of course, he was just kind of messing around with it today. So instead, we have an Odd Control Mage. This one just basically is exactly what it sounds like. You play odd-costed cards, but it features a couple of weird twists to it, like Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and, of course, Stargazer Luna. So just some of the new legendaries from the Boomsday. And it's a really fun deck, and Fluffy used this to climb out of the dumpster. Climb, 2,000, 3,000 ranks with this deck. So definitely has some viability in, again, a pocket meta that maybe you recognize there's a lot of opportunities for this deck to thrive. So give me your first impressions, Gibler. You just played a bunch of Control Mage, so tell me what you think.
I mean, I actually played against a odd Control Mage. It was actually like odd Secret Mage today that played like Turbo. I was like, ooh, it's gonna be a really cool deck, and then he played like Turbo Mana Worm, turn 2 Mana Worm, turn 3 like Kirin Tor Mage into a Secret. And I'm like, oh god, I'm just getting my face crushed in. Yeah. But then he played Luna's Pocket Galaxy on 7. And, I was literally at, 5 life, and he's like, Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and I'm like, you could have just pinged me to death in, 2 turns.
Yeah.
The game became really interesting after that point. But, Luna's Pocket Galaxy is one of those cards that, I'm really not super impressed by, in a lot of different decks. This one, there's a big question mark, because there's the Antonitis Malagos, you have the possibility of getting, those sort of crazy things going on. And also, Stargazer Luna, turns out, is pretty good with her namesake card. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, if your deck is primarily trying to do control things, I guess the Pocket Galaxy is a way you can beat the combo decks. That you can have your crazy combo finish other than just playing the sort of grindy game, and that's just kind of in there for that reason. But for the most part, I'm really unexcited when I see that card get played because it just doesn't really do enough for 7 mana in a lot of different decks.
Yeah, I played a lot of Odd Control Mage in the Witchwood meta. Actually, this was something that Admirable can attest to. We were just basically in the backstage. I don't know if you remember, Killer, but we were just basically grinding a bunch of Odd Mage, Control Mage backstage during playoffs. And it was surprising how effective the hero power is against, any fast start. They play Light Warden or Flame Imp. Just, you ping. And then you just, your hero power can solo carry you all the way to Frostless Jaina. And I kind of wonder how some of these other new tools help you stay keep alive versus aggro, because that's kind of what this deck is really good. But it has some of that top end in case you get the Pocket Galaxy into Malagos or Antonitis. Or, even Alex Straza. You can play Alex Straza plus a couple of other things to just tempo your opponent out. I say give this deck a chance. I'm not saying that it's definitely better than Big Spell Mage, but yeah, try it tomorrow, man, when you're streaming or sometime this week. I think you might have a lot of fun with it. Firebat, any thoughts on this mage, or should we move on?
Yeah, I think you guys covered most of it all. I think I'll probably try it. It's definitely weird. I'm not sure if it's going to be actually better than other forms of mage that do the same thing. It's trying to be odd to help out against aggro, but it's you're giving up a lot of good against aggro cards, like Blizzard and Doomsayer. So it's a little upsetting to give those cards up. I'm not so
the
sure
Frostnova in this deck seem a little weird to me.
Yeah, that's what
you don't have Doomsayer. You don't really have what seem to be awesome ways to actually take advantage of the tempo you're getting there. It feels like I don't know what else it would be. Feels like maybe you just want Tar Creeper or something, Yeah.
With Antonitis against aggro, it's disgusting for sure.
Sure, yeah. Frostnova with Antonitis, especially a cheap Antonitis off of Luna's Pocket Galaxy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Maybe you need a turn to play Luna's Pocket Galaxy and not die. So you Galaxy
10 mana Galaxy Frostnova.
Yeah.
Next turn, please. I hope I drew a 1-cost thing that matters.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, what if you take this deck and you turn it into just a regular deck, and you keep the Luna's Pocket Galaxy and the Archmage Antonidas? You just get rid of stuff like maybe Astromancer or some of these other, shenanigans, put in Doomsayers and Blizzards. Because you already got the Novas in there. The Doomsayers with the Novas are disgusting against lots of things. And then I think maybe you got a deck. I think there's potential here. If this is working, I think definitely a non-odd version of this that keeps some of the core of this could be pretty good.
Yeah, definitely. Don't write it off completely, but I think there could be even more refinement to it. All right, so that's our first three classes. We have Paladin coming up next, and I think I'm going to go to Firebat for this one because this one's the first one we have is a pretty exciting deck. It's a Control Egg Paladin featuring Devil Sore Egg, Mechano Egg, and of course everyone's favorite 5-mana combo card, Carnivorous Cube. With, some interesting top-ends. It's got, of course, Kangor's Endless Army, so you can revive the Egg or the Robosaur or anything that you've combined with it, and Uther of the Ebon Void. So Firebat, take it away, man. What's great about this deck? You've been tweeting about it, you've been playing it. What do you love about it?
I like how much power it has against control. Its engine against control with the Mechano Eggs and the Kangors and the Cubes. You used to have a ridiculous number of threats. I was even playing Tyrion in mine, and you just never run out of steam, which is really fun against control, and then against aggro. Sometimes you get pyro quality, and then you shut down their whole board development, and then just kind of win there. So it's mainly an anti-control deck, and then you have a % chance to draw the right cards and instantly win against aggro because your board clears are so solid. So I think it's very powerful, and it's just really cool to play a control paladin because it's not something that's been viable for like a really long time.
Right.
But I think the deck's actually pretty good.
Yeah, one of the big problems that I was just gonna say one of the big problems that Control Paladin has historically had is like it's bad at ending games. It really it's good at killing a bunch of stuff, and it really suffers against other like heavy controlling style of decks because the sort of things like just remove all your creatures doesn't really work in a world where people have Death Knight cards and whatever else. But with the threat of like Cube Egg and like Kangor's Endless Army, there's so many things this deck can do to generate like powerful boards repeatedly that are often very resilient to opposing removal. So I haven't actually tried this particular build, but I definitely feel like Control Paladin has like the sort of tools it needs to be viable now.
Yeah, this was the deck that I believe Russia brought to HGG this week. So it's a little bit less greedy. Like it doesn't have Spear Singer Umbra, for example, which has insane synergy with like a lot of the stuff because magnetic upgrades are stickied onto the Endless Army. You end up playing like Spear Singer Umbra, and say you play the Prismatic Lens build, and then you can like summon everything back, and it just stacks on each other. Or if you play it with the Meat Wagon, which is what Muzzy was doing at Buenos Aires and got top 4. People were banning the Mech Paladin with, Umbra and the eggs and stuff. So it's really interesting to see the respect come out of Paladin, even though everyone's hyping up Druid. So don't sleep on the Paladins, man. I think it's got a lot of interesting stuff. This other list we can even show you guys, even Mech Paladin also climbed to, I think, top 25 Legend as well. It shows tacos, but there's just been a few people who've just been playing like only Paladin to top Legend, and this one also just kind of has a really powerful shell. If you like playing that mid-range style, that we're showing a bunch of mid-range decks basically today, and so this one has a lot of punch to it as well. And I think overall the magnetic ability makes a lot of sense for what Paladin wants to do, and you don't even need the Endless Army to necessarily have a good game plan, as you can see with this deck. Have you guys gone up against even Paladin at all?
Not Mech even Paladin. It seems like Mech without using like this doesn't get Endless Army, it doesn't get War Gear, it doesn't get like what's the 1/3? Feels like the Mech stuff you're getting here is basically like exactly a Noyo module. Like you can Coppertail Imposter and Anoia, like that just feels like a strange set of mechs to be using instead of other stuff to me, but interesting stuff.
It's the idea that because even Paladin wants to be on the board. I played with this deck like 10, 15 games or so. The idea is that you always want to be on board. So when you have things like upgradable Framebot, and like a 1/1 for 1 every single turn. It's like really hard to clear everything all the time. And so most likely you're going to be able to get something to stick. And even Paladin just needs 1 or 2 things to stick, and then things start to snowball. So it really packs quite the punch. You might not think it just because this deck looks fairly pedestrian, but I lost to this deck, so then I started playing it, and I actually had a pretty decent win rate. I went like 9-6 or like 10-5, somewhere around there. So definitely a solid mid-range deck if you guys like that kind of stuff. All right, let's go to Priest. We have 2 of them. One of them was a Quest Priest that we didn't really talk about last week that Show used to climb the top 10 legend. Not really exactly sure about Quest Priest viability, so I'm going to lean to Kibler's expertise once we show the deck list here. Do you think Quest Priest has a place for this meta, or do you think it was just capitalizing on like a bunch of aggro?
I mean, I think that Quest Priest is in sort of weird spot. I've tried a bunch of versions. I didn't actually get around to trying the Kaboom bots. That's an interesting idea. But Mecharoo too. This is really dedicated, like, cheap death rattles. Just wants to get the Amara off as fast as possible. But I haven't tried this particular build. I was trying versions that were basically I tried like a cube version, and I tried just like a dragon version that was very similar to the one that I was playing a lot last season, and it felt like okay. I like the idea of the Kaboom bots giving you more sort of interactivity on the board that also happen to be death rattles that can bring back effectively removal with Twilight's Call and just keep you in those games against the aggressive decks. And the idea of playing Oracle and Mecharoo just to try and get your death rattles out as fast as possible is also very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you have so much like backup late game with like a Benedictus, so you don't have to like run out of resource for your Shadow Reaper Anduin. And then once you get Anduin, it's just like basically like anything else control priest style, just like weave in the hero powers, outvalue your opponent, grind them out. I haven't seen a single quest priest, so this is just complete theory crafting. But again, Show got the results pretty early into expansion, and now we're a week and a half later. We're not sure if this is actually as viable as it might seem. Fire Red, what do you think? Is it a contender or a pretender?
I don't think this deck is going to be very good.
Okay.
I mean, congratulations to Show for getting the top 10 with it, but I feel like Benedictus by itself is not enough to beat most of the control decks of today's metagame.
Yeah, agreed. How about this mech priest that's starting to come out a little bit more in vogue? There's a bunch of mech experimentations with priest, but this one made it to a tournament stage with Canada bringing it to HGG, and they essentially want to play Divine Spirit Inner Fire Priest, but they have a bunch of different mechs weaved into it, so they can have a solid mid-range game plan in the event they get Skulking Geisted or something else. Some decks even include Lady in White to put them in there, so that way they can buff all their like 0/9s into 9/9s, etc. as a good backup plan as well, to play this like mid-range combo-y mech priest.
I was actually playing like a mech buff priest a little bit earlier in the week, and it was okay. It ran into the problem of like you would just get the draws that are all spells, and you are like very, very inconsistent with having so many different combo pieces, and playing the mech version, you don't get access to like Duskbreaker, which makes your matchup against the aggressive decks like way worse. I was trying playing like Framebot plus extra arms, so against against aggressive decks, against like minion decks, I could just play like a 1/5 and then +2/+2 it, and be able to fight for the board that way. Which when that happened, when that actually came together, it was pretty good in the aggressive matchups. But so often you just end up with hands that are just like Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, Circle of Healing, Silence, and your opponent is just killing you.
Yeah, like a Flame that hasn't died for 4 turns, and
yeah,
you basically don't have the answers. It's a tournament deck right now that's being brought, but some people are trying to climb with it in ladder. And let's say you love the priest and you love some of this style, and you don't want to just play a control/combo deck that is like relying on drawing 10 cards to be able to execute. This deck can also just play a straight up mid-range game plan. Slap the Lady in White in there if you have it too, and see how it does, and let me know. All right, let's go to.
But
Why
I played
not?
This deck Because Lady White's terrible in this deck. It costs 6 mana and does almost nothing. I've played a lot of Inner Fire Priest before the expansion, and before the expansion there was a list, I think his name is Farting Arfie or something, hit top 10 with like the original shell of Inner Fire Priest back when Druid was popular, and it looks very similar to this, except obviously without the new mechs. They had like a second Acolyte in and different 2-drop, but I think it's a really powerful shell if you're versing a lot of Druids. Druids can really struggle at being able to kill one of these, and just if the unpowered Steambot sticks, you kind of win the game. Inner Fire Priest fell out of popularity because Void Ripper was super hype in all the aggro decks like crazy, and so then this deck was terrible because they'd flip your high health minions around and kill them with their 1/1. But now that the Void Ripper's falling out of the meta, I think there's maybe some justification to start playing that style of deck again. It's pretty cool.
Ooh, I sense a little optimism from Firebase.
It has to compete against Mechathune Priest, though, which is a very powerful anti-control priest deck, and it has to compete against
just regular
Topsy
control.
Turvy, the combo one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
As the anti-control option, because it's basically it's very similar to the Stone Tusk 4 test subject priest deck shell, except different win condition.
Yeah. It's funny that you brought up extra arms, by the way, Kibler, because I saw that card being teched into the Topsy Turvy Priest, and it's increased your win rate ever so slightly. I think maybe people were just getting better at the deck. Maybe not necessarily because of the extra arms, but who knows? Maybe I'm not. I haven't played that deck ever since going on this insane lose streak with it that I posted on social media. So don't play the Topsy Turvy Priest deck unless you absolutely don't care about. If you're at a rank floor, or you absolutely just don't care about whatever legend rank you're at, just go ahead and go for it.
One deck that I actually saw, I think it was yesterday on Twitter, was a deck that Abar posted. There was actually a Mech Dragon combo priest deck that used Meatwagon War Gear. So like if your opponent kills you, if they kill your Meatwagon, you get an 09 and you can threaten just like Divine Spirit combos. If they don't, you can War Gear it, and then your War Geared Meatwagon gets like Primordial Drake or Nightscale Matriarch from your deck when it dies. And same thing with like you inner fire your Meatwagon, and suddenly you're getting these huge minions out of it. And I thought that sort of combination of potential threats from that deck was really interesting. Plus, you get to play with Duskbreaker, which obviously dramatically influences your aggressive matchups.
It's really interesting. Abar comes up with some really weird stuff. He's the guy that also, well, if you guys don't know, his what he currently does is work on the Hearthstone Championship Tour broadcast. So he's a big reason why it even happens. But he also helped create that Weasel Tunneler Priest that Savit's popularized. Savit's got that idea from Abar, and so has created a bunch of memes for the community to enjoy. All right, we have a few more classes. Let's kind of power through these because these aren't as interesting. Just want to do our due diligence to let you guys know what's been coming into the meta. Quest Rogue is back yet again, and everyone is playing it in tournaments and is starting to wreak havoc on ladder because of the power of Giggling Inventor, both before and after the quest is completed. And because the meta is slow enough, you can really get away with just finishing the quest at a reasonable time if you're not playing against Odd Rogue or Zoo Warlock. So Quest Rogue is a threat, and some people are saying that it's going to get nerfed again, which I think would be pretty hilarious. I kind of want that to happen just for the memes of it. I don't know if it actually is worthy of a nerf. What do you think, Firebait?
It's ridiculously powerful. Rage is it. I'm pretty sure Rage was at #1 legend with it yesterday. The deck is just really, really good, and Sonya is even more broken than before now with Giggling Inventor, because if you play Giggling Inventor on 5, most of the time that 2/1 lives, and then you play Sonya, trade it in, and then play another Giggling Inventor for 1 mana, which is absurd. Right. So, you can, against aggro, just keep Giggling Inventor Sonya and probably win, because they won't have enough attacks to kill the 2/1. They don't run removal because they're the aggro deck. So, like, Zoo will have to Soulfire that 2/1 or something. It's absolutely insane how much life Giggling Inventor breathes.
I do find it really funny that Quest Rogue just, is the boogeyman that keeps coming back, because fundamentally, like, the things that have been changed about Quest Rogue do not change enough to make what is powerful about Quest Rogue no longer super powerful. It's still going to do the same sort of things, and anytime there's a card like a Sonya or a Giggling Inventor that helps you leverage the power that Quest Rogue has, it's or Vicious Scalehide, all these things which help leverage like what the deck can do powerfully and shore up the weaknesses, it's just going to get, another shot in the arm. And while, 4/4s might not have been good enough before, okay, well now there's this. I actually had a funny game against Quest Rogue today. It was like, I had just beaten an odd rogue, and I'm like, oh, I played against another rogue. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to farm another odd rogue, get legend. And it was Quest Rogue. I was like, oh, how in the world am I going to win this? And I Stonehilled for a Lich King and Omega Assemblied for a Alarmobot. Got into play on like turn 6 off the Alarmobot. and ended up like just repeatedly getting obliterates and never got a damage spell, and like was my opponent was at 5 at the end of the game, like before he finally got like Valera and just went off on me, and I was like, I was so close to winning this ridiculous game, but no, the deck's still busted. Against any kind of control deck, it's just like ridiculous.
If people play it like extremely poorly too. I play against Quest Rogues that don't understand how to go infinite with Sonya still. Like that, if that didn't exist, maybe you could exhaust it of resources. But when you get Valera up and then you have Sonya, you can just make infinite 4/4s for the rest of the game, and then your controlling opponent can never exhaust you. But yeah, sometimes you still get wins against Quest Rogue played incorrectly because they don't do that, or sometimes you can Demonic Project the Sonya. So like there are a little bit of counterplay if you're Warlock trying to set up Demonic Project on the Sonya and things of that nature. But most of the time, if they do it right, they should make infinite 4/4s with infinite healing and always win against any deck that tries to remove all of its resources.
Yeah, I definitely am like thinking about the idea. Like people are suggesting like redesigns altogether, like make it easier to complete, but just a lower power level, so it's more consistent instead of like polarized. Maybe like 3 copies and 3/3 or something.
It's pretty consistent. It happens between turns 6 and 8, like every game.
Well, I meant
it's
more
like super consistent. Okay. You can't make it like the issue is making everything 4/4s is pretty much the same thing as making them 5/5s. Really just now instead of going face, you play the value game, and you have the Sonya and you have the what's it called? Zola to be able to play that value game and go infinite with it with Valera. So like one of the pieces of Sonya, Zola, and Valera can get changed pretty easily, and then if you change that, then it can't go with any of these infinite value strats, and then suddenly you can exhaust it as the control deck, and then it has a power spike when it completes the quest, but then can still get beaten down by the control decks. But yeah, just being infinite, making it always beat control if it finishes the quest while it finishes the quest between 6 and 8 every game is a problem.
I mean, my argument is still the same as it was before. I think the problem card is preparation, and the problem card, for Rogue in many cases has just always been preparation. And the fact that this deck leverages preparation better than any other Rogue deck because it always has a super powerful, expensive card in the quest reward itself, plus Vanish, either of which are insane with preparation. And if I think that making a change to preparation, like I love the Casey's suggestion of your next spell that costs 3 or less costs 0 instead. So you can't you can actually make expensive rogue spells that won't just get prepped out, and you create this design constraint forever. It obviously changes. You can't like prep sprint and stuff, and you have to reimagine what Rogue's character is. But I think that's the biggest oppressive card in Quest Rogue by miles.
Yeah, or just make the quest a minion, hit the play it, such stuff like that. I definitely think so. Let's go ahead and just show the Miracle Rogue list too, because I think people said, "Why didn't you talk about that?" We talked about Odd Rogue, Death Adder Rogue, Kingsbane Rogue, Quest Rogue. Rogue is in a really good spot. You can pretty much play all kinds of archetypes. It's a really fun class right now. So Rogue and Hunter are 2 of my favorites to play. So if you're a big fan of Miracle Rogue, definitely try it. They're playing Augmented Elec and Giggling Inventors, and then a bunch of other tech like Mossy Horror, Blood Knights if you need that on ladder. Shaman don't have much actually. Shaman's back to the weird days where it's kind of just struggling with a lot of weird and awkward decks. The Token Shaman didn't really flesh out. Even Shaman's still like okay. People are actually going back to the original combo Shutterwalk with Grumble and Life Drinker. This is what's being brought to tournaments. This is what people are climbing with on ladder. Still very effective, and the only new card that they have is Electra Storm Surge. That way you can do some really clutch scenarios like double Volcano or double Farsight, double Lightning Storm, etc. So nothing really much to comment here, considering I think a lot of people get what Shutterwalk really does at this point. But in case you don't know, it basically is another thing like Quest Rogue to kill the control decks with inevitability. Any comments from you guys on Shutterwalk? Should we move on?
I think Shutterwalk, when played correctly, the combo variant is still just a tier 1 deck like it was before. The win rate on HS Replay and stuff says it's like tier 3, tier 4. And I think now even worse. But like pre-expansion, it was in that T3 range. And there's a lot of people finishing top 25 with it. It was very popular. I did the whole grind at the end of last season and got the top 25 finish. I risked Shutterwalk a lot and played with some Shutterwalk during that time. It's still just like really good, and the core reason being is you auto win against control if you pilot it properly, which is really sweet. So 50% of your games you kind of just auto win, and then the other 50% against aggro, it's not bad against aggro. Storm, MC Tech, Volcano are all really good against aggro, and MC Tech is insane right now. And so because everyone's playing Giggling Inventor even in their aggro decks, so I think if anything the deck got a lot better because the aggro decks that are being played are a little bit more susceptible to the removal of the Shaman.
Yeah, better position because there is still a lot of slow decks right now, for sure. And you can also build an anti-aggro package with Wild Pyromancer still if you guys are hitting a bunch of them. Warlock also has an old deck making a resurgence, hitting #1 legend with Cube Warlock, something we didn't really mention. So as much as Zoo, Control Warlock, even Warlock has the hype, good old Cube Warlock with, I don't think, a single new card is still... Actually, it's Giggling Inventor, apologies. It still has very effective.
Same new card everyone else has.
There you go. Let's move on. We have a good one to wrap it up. I know we kind of feel like we're dragging our feet through this, but the last one is a good one for people who love Hearthstone since the beginning, and it is classic Control Warrior. It's not an odd warrior. It's just straight up Control Warrior. That was I think it was brought to HTG by China, and it's just kind of got like a little bit of top end with Geosculptor Yip, Grommash, and the Death Knight, and it's just got a bunch of control tools to get there. So this is something that I just kind of want to bounce off you guys. Maybe it's not necessarily what we see on ladder, but just classic Control Warrior, which is control the board and then play like a couple big threats to flip the switch and then win. What do you think?
I think one of the biggest problems for Control Warrior is the popularity of Death Rattle Hunter. Death Rattle Hunter is one of the most popular decks right now. And it's really bad matchup for like traditional Control Warrior. You just don't have great tools to really deal with like their ability to create sticky and threatening boards. It's one of the reasons that I really like the Baku Warrior because you can use Super Collider really well because you have a ton of additional armor to work with. I think Super Collider is like one of the like super sleeper type cards in the set. It was a card that people like didn't really know how to evaluate, and it is so powerful in how the metagame is shaping up. Because there's, if you are able to kill your opponent, your opponent like plays, an egg and pops it. You're just like, okay, well, if you can kill their egg and Super Collider, you just kill both of their things with one swing. And if you have the armor to leverage that, you can, like easily kill like 6 minions with one weapon and get both like massive value and huge tempo advantages.
Yeah,
and
I think
the hunter opponent plays Rexar. And then you can see.
I actually won multiple games against Rexar being in play for like a ton of turns with Baku Warrior today. Like I had an opponent play at like turn 6 and I fatigued him.
I don't think a lot of people can replicate that. But no,
that's like borderline impossible if they do it right? But yeah, that's impressive that you're able to take it down. There's so many zombies that you had to kill, plus his actual minions. That's really impressive.
Dr. Boom gives you the ability to address the board both create additional value regularly with your hero power, as well as immediately address the board with rush minions. And Omega Assembly too. Omega Assembly giving you the ability to like create a ton of value. Like there's very when I was playing the Baku Warrior deck, there's very particular ways that I would address the hunter matchups. And one of them was just almost never playing Omega Assembly before 10, because if they do get Rexar down, you really need that value from the Omega Assembly to be able to keep pressuring and keep up with what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really tough to beat Rexar though, especially if they do if they pick stealth every time. They have like 50% chance to get stealth, and then you just can't remove the minions except with like brawl. So like they just put a stealth beast down, hit you with it. Put a stealth beast down, hit you with it. Like
I'm not saying it's like you like are a huge favorite or anything like that. I'm saying that the combination of Dr. Boom, Super Collider, Omega Assembly, I think gives you way better chance of winning those sort of games and actually a realistic one. Whereas before, I agree. Before this set, I think that Rexar against a Control Warrior rather was basically unbeatable. But I think that with the tools you have now, you actually are like reasonably positioned to win those games.
Okay. And I think Kibler has a point given that he's shown it. But again, not everyone has your experience per se, Kibler. So I don't think people will come into this show expecting to be able to beat the Deathstalker Rexars with their Dr. Boom. So tread carefully.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying it's not tough, but I think it's doable.
Tread carefully. All right, so that's our meta impressions for week 2. It's very comprehensive. I don't think we'll do something like this for week 3 unless something really striking comes up. And I'm sorry if we went a little bit longer than we want to, but we do want to go through the mailbag because we've been putting off a lot of your questions. So we'll go ahead and try to power through these as fast as we can, but also not try to skimp on the quality of our answers. So let's go ahead and rapid fire them, and then maybe we'll hand it off to one guy to answer, and if someone else wants to chime in, they can go ahead. So this one, asked by Michael, he says, do you think the last meta or two have been an improvement to the past metas? I personally hit Legend 2 to 3 times, but once the meta was solved, so I could predict what my opponent would do, now I'm struggling to get past rank 3 since there are so many decks. Who wants to take this one?
I think that this is the best, like, right after expansion metagame we've had in a while, because I think that we previously had, essentially like needs for nerfs. Whether it was like, essentially the power level of Warlock, at the previous expansion, the power level of like Raza Priest, before that, the power level of Druid before that. And I think that right now, I don't feel like there are any like major balance changes that I'm just like, oh, I can't believe they didn't do this. I think that there are things that maybe the game would overall be a better place, like if they would just finally, nuke Quest Rogue from orbit instead of just always taking off little bits of it. But I do think that the variety and the possibility for so many different decks to be viable is, in my mind, a positive thing. It can definitely make it tough to figure out what everything's happening in the games you're playing and make your legend climb less predictable. But I think that makes the game more fun.
Yeah, the only criticism I have for Boomsday is that it doesn't feel like there are too many new concepts, but there's just so many diverse decks already. Like there's like maybe like a handful of new decks, but it feels like we're still playing in like an extended Witchwood meta. But I mean, we still have time to develop and figure out what's going on, mainly on Paladin's side. Here's another question. This one I think should go to Firebat. It asks, I get Legend every month, but I feel like I don't improve anymore. Always struggled to get past the 1,000 rank. Any tips to get past this threshold?
Well, you should use all the resources available. Try and, use deck trackers if you're not using a deck tracker. Even maybe writing things down. If you're actively trying to improve, studying is a good way to do it. You take notes on what do your favorite streamers do. So look at a streamer that consistently hits the high ranks, maybe Tyler or Show or someone like that, RDU, and write down what they mulligan. Write down what they do in each specific matchup. Take notes and study. You don't become the best or become one of the top 100 in the server by just slamming your head against the wall and hitting the Q button constantly. You're going to have to actually take some time to step away from the game and study it and look at different angles. You can't just play it and expect to be a top 100 player. You have to actually take the time to research it and study. So writing things down in game and outside of game and watching streamers and actually studying them, not just, eating chips and enjoying it and memeing in chat.
I think it's easy for a lot of people who consistently do reasonably well to like just sort of assume that they are not reaching high ranks or whatever because they're getting unlucky or whatever it is. But there's so much that almost any player can improve upon that, people think that, oh, Hearthstone has whatever skill cap, yada, yada. But there's basically no one who plays Hearthstone perfectly on a consistent basis. Maybe someone's played like a perfect game in their life, but I think that the game is much more complex and has many more levels than most people realize. And if you can find someone who is, a top player, like Firebat said, and ask them their thought process on their stream, or even better, get a chance to actually talk through your thought process with them as you're playing, that can really help you.
Yeah. I think the higher you go in a game like Hearthstone, it's not necessarily determined by how many wins you get, but how your ability to think in different lines. Like a lot of people are very stubborn. Like I know the exact wall this guy's talking about, like hitting top 1,000 rank, because that's me for a long time too, and still do to a certain extent. And it's just like because you're very narrow with your thinking, you can't like understand. It's really hard to understand things beyond that. So don't just like play more games, analyze, sit back, think. Exactly what Fireband Killer said. All right, so another question here is come from Wasik. Is there a value in intuition based tier lists? Oh, actually, sorry. Let's go ahead and address this one first. Do you think older sets should return to standard? With all the mech-centric stuff we're getting in Boomsday, it made me wish GVG and GorillaBot is still in standard. Let's go to Kibler for this one.
I mean, I've always been a fan of mixing up the contents of the classic set, having things, potentially old cards that could be relevant, maybe rotate in and, be around for a year. Like if GorillaBot were just in the, in the classic set right now for this year, it's like, oh, wow, like that, would be a cool tool that people could have to work with. I don't know you necessarily want to just have any card that might be good come back because, you want to create new experiences rather than just having, these sort of older cards kind of take over the new metagame. But I do think that there's definitely room for bringing old cards back through sort of a rotating classic / core set in a way that can make the game more fun overall.
Yeah, really glad they use like GorillaBot as an example, because a lot of people use stuff like Reno as an example to come back, and I'm like, I think they're just too defining. Like, we don't want Gen, Baku, and Reno, some of these like crazy powerful legendaries to come back. So I think
one card that I did hear people suggest would be cool to sort of have at least like longer in the standard card pool was Whizbang. I think Whizbang is like the perfect type of card for that, because it's not really a card that influences the metagame. It's not a card that it's just a card that provides an opportunity to have different sorts of game experiences for people who don't necessarily have large collections. And I think that like that being a card that could always be around is like, that's cool. That's not the sort of thing that like makes the metagame shift in any real way.
100% agree. I think it's awesome, and I think that it accomplishes exactly what they want to as well, which is, they want people to look at the deck recipes. For a long time, it felt like people use it just as a meme, but I think it's definitely exactly what you said. All right, we have one from Wasik. This is one I was kind of talking about before. Is there value in intuition-based tier lists and matchup charts, or should I stick to data-backed ones like HS Replay? Fireband.
A lot of times pro players' intuitions and feelings and stuff about matchups can differ from the stats, and that is valuable information. Finding those differences is usually how people end up winning tournaments and championships and stuff, is because everyone perceives something to be some way based on the data. There's a lot of people that brainlessly follow the data, and then sometimes the data's wrong because you can do something different. You can play in a slightly different way, and that changes how the actual matchup works. And there's one guy doing that, and then his lineup suddenly is not countered because everyone tried to counter it based on this something that they thought in data, but he's doing something different than everyone does on ladder, so the data doesn't apply anymore, and you're able to get wins that way. So I think definitely, especially for tournament lineups and stuff like that, trying to find the differences between the data and reality is one of the most influential things.
Yeah, that's a skill in itself, honestly. Being able to interpret data. Data can help point you in a certain direction, but it can't tell you the exact conclusion that you're looking for. Largely because data, especially right now in this metagame, is starting to get muddled more and more. Like, for example, a very easy thing we can call out is Shutterwalk Shaman. Like, there's different variations of Shutterwalk, but it's very difficult sometimes for deck trackers to keep track of all those things. Even druids, like look at all the druid shells. Like, how do you know what druid you're going up against if it's like Wild Growth, Nourish into like Malfurion? You're like, okay, well, am I losing a token druid? Am I losing to Malygos druid, etc.? So you have to be careful and judicious with that. But data is a very powerful tool, because if you ignore it and you only use your intuition base, you're going to hard cap yourself, in my opinion, in this game. Next question. Sorry to wrap it through. We have a lot of questions we want to do today because we didn't do last week's. This one, I think I want to go to Kibler because I think he has the most experience with other card games. Ask, Artifact's been getting unprecedented amounts of hype from many Hearthstone pros due to Valve's intention to focus on competitive play versus Hearthstone's more casual approach. Assuming that the game turns out to be any good, how do you guys think it'll affect Hearthstone's competitive scene and Hearthstone's general direction?
is it really unprecedented amount of hype? Because I remember Gwent getting a huge amount of hype from people in very similar sort of way, like, oh, it's going to be this great competitive pro game, and then it isn't. I don't know. Like, I think that people tend to, anyone who's like in like a competitive scene where they have whatever sort of gripes, tend to look at like the next best thing and imagine, well, this is gonna like change everything that I don't like about this game that I'm playing now. I have reason to think that Artifact will be like a good game. It's designed by Richard Garfield. It's supported by Valve. So I think that having more options for players who are looking to play competitively is just a great thing. And frankly, like having more competition for competitive TCG play, competitive digital TCG play, is a good thing for players too, because that is likely to get Blizzard's attention if like people start actually moving away to play Artifact, or Artifact events look much more attractive than Hearthstone events. Then it's like, oh well, how do we make our events better? Because we need to keep up. But much like every game that comes out that people are like, this is the next big thing, I'm kind of gonna wait to actually see it.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's been a lot of examples of competition being really helpful to have two big games in the genre. You look at League of Legends and Dota having a lot of rivalry there. You look at even Fortnite and PUBG. I mean, Fortnite really has dwarfed PUBG at this point. It's like not even close anymore. But I mean, the idea is that because Fortnite exists and PUBG still has a very popular player base relative to other games, it still encourages PUBG Core and Bluehole to improve their stuff. And I think that's the same thing. I do believe that Blizzard could use somebody hot on their tails. And the closest thing we've had is actually Shadowverse, I think. But like Gwent, sort of. Gwent's kind of like fallen since the midwinter patch. I hope all the best for Artifact, and I think it has a lot of potential. I've played it a handful, and I do think that it could use a little bit of more casual friendly approach, but I think it does have a lot of good stuff for the competitive players that they want. Did you want to say anything about that, Firebet, or should we move on?
I think we're good. You guys got pretty much everything.
All right. Kat asks, "What's your most underrated and overrated card this expansion?" This is from last week's question, Vash, but go ahead and answer, Firebet. What do you think?
My most underrated card was Missile Launcher. I thought it was going to be trash, and I love it. Fantastic card. Actually pretty powerful. So really enjoy that. And my most overrated card... overrated. What did I think was going to be good that is now bad? I don't know. Come back to me. Someone else go.
Maybe Floop's Glorious Gloop? I thought that card would be... Or Biology Project. Like, any one of those.
Biology Project, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the Druid cards. I thought Biology Project and Floop's Glorious Gloop were going to be pretty good, but now even a lot of the token Druids aren't even playing the Gloop. The Gloop is actually just not very good. Who would have thought?
So weird, right? Well, for now. I mean, it could easily be insane later on. But.
I would say my probably most underrated card or overrated card may have been Biology Project 2. Like I was like, I saw that card and I was like, this, is just scary. I don't know how much of that is like, based on the popularity of Druid decks and, how many other decks are able to take advantage of the mana ramp that you give them. It's sort of part of what we talked about when we saw that card initially. The most underrated card from my perspective, I've had a ton of success with Meteorologist. I looked at that card, and a lot of people just saw that card and were like, "Oh, it's kind of trash." I looked at it, I was like, "I don't know that this is really going to be good." But that card, especially in a world where there's giggly inventors everywhere, that card is very powerful in the hand mage deck that I've been playing. It can just totally wipe people's boards out. It can just pyroblast a control deck when they wipe your board. And I think that card is actually very good in the right deck.
Yeah, you guys covered most of mine. I mean, there's a couple of one that I pick out. Like, I thought Electro Storm Surge would just be, like, super insane. It ends up just being, like, pretty solid. Still good, but not, like, amazing as I thought. And then, like, I don't know. I guess War Gear is kind of overrated a little bit. People were just saying, like, this would be, like, this insane thing. Like, everyone's just going to War Gear everyone. And it's still a solid card, just it wasn't as insane. So I would add that to the mix.
Runs into Giggling Inventor a lot. That card is just so insane. Giggling Inventor is just
can't be a Giggling Inventor.
It kind of upsets me that Giggling Inventor is going to be in for a while. That card's like not going anywhere for a long time, right? So,
we'll see.
Meta defining. There's two of them in like every deck.
Vicious Syndicate predicts that it'll be the number one candidate for nerfs, which is actually a good segue to this question.
That what will be?
Giggling Inventor.
Giggles? Sure.
Yeah. The Almighty Ginger asks, what kind of balance changes do you foresee with this expansion? So do we think Giggling Inventor is worthy of a nerf, or do you think it's actually kind of okay how it is right now?
I actually really like how Giggling Inventor the metagame has shifted surrounding Giggling Inventor because it has been so popular, and you see Blood Knights in decks, you see Mossy Horror in tons of decks, and I think that those are, two of the cards that, in week one when I saw how many Giggling Inventors were out there, I'm like, well, these are cards I'm putting in my decks, and I think that it's obviously a very powerful card, but I don't think it's a card that is, so overwhelmingly good in like every deck that has like no good answers. I like the fact that there are already good answers to it, so I don't know that necessarily is a card that's going to get changed.
Yeah, agreed. Mossy Heart, Blood Knight, even Mind Control tech, like you mentioned, and then Defile. Like, there's a lot of actually ways to answer Giggling Inventor, even though it's exactly what it's supposed to do, which is doubly as annoying as you expect. I think it's in a good spot, but I don't even know how I even tackle like nerfs to open up this expansion more. So this is something I have to think about. I don't really have a good answer for you right now.
I mean, I like I was saying before, I feel like this is the best like immediately after the expansion metagame that we have had like in like a year at least. Because I feel like there are obviously powerful decks like Malagos, like Odd Rogue, Zoo that but none of them feel individually super oppressively powerful, and I feel like there's no individual card that jumps out as like I can't believe they printed this in this expansion or anything like that. There's lots of like powerful stuff like Giggling Inventor, but not stuff that I'm just like well, that was clearly a mistake.
So historically, set twos in the year have been the Grand Tournament, Karazhan, Knights of the Frozen Throne, which brought the Druid meta, and this 2018. So we've actually had, this is exactly what you said, Kibler, objectively based off what people are saying right now, from Shaman Stone to Druid Stone to Secret Paladin meta. Set 2 is definitely a tricky set to design. It seems like Boomsday is the most neutral, but according to a lot of people, they also feel like there's not enough changes because it's like the same Witchwood meta. So I would like to see a little bit more open up, but we'll give it some more time. Fiber, do you have anything to add to this? Any balance changes you'd like to see?
I don't like Giggling Inventor as much as you guys do. I want to see Giggling Inventor changed. I understand that you guys like it. You like how much it slows down the game. There's 2 Giggling Inventors in a deck that's popular for every single class, and even while that card's being teched against, that's true, and it's still a positive win rate in all of those decks. So it upsets me greatly, and I think it shapes the metagame. It slows down the metagame a lot, I think, and in some respects, and speeds it up in other respects. So it's kind of like it cuts down a lot on mid-rangey behavior and cuts more towards hyper aggro and control / combo.
Just mid-rangey Mossy. Mid-range Mossy.
Yeah. And what if you don't draw the Mossy?
Then you have 2 meteorologists too, and you have your Book of Specters to find them.
I will say, I do have one card I would like on the chopping block, and that's Ultimate Infestation. I think it's just still way too insane for what it does. But that's if I have to pick one right now at this very moment. Okay. Looks like.
But, yeah.
Oh, did you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to say the metagame has not changed that much from the previous expansion. Like this expansion did not really impact too many things. Like Malagos Druid was a thing before and is still popular with like a few new cards. Death Rattle Hunter is a lot different than it was before, but still the same core concept of it is still there, but it's changed a lot. Odd Rogue has like 3 new cards total, 2 Giggling Inventors and the Myers Unstable Element, and is still one of the highest win rate, most popular decks. And then Zoo was around before with the heal package, and now they just added the few new broken cards, and it's still one of the most popular decks. So like a lot of the tier 1 decks are exactly the same, but I think it's still really early because we have that Inner Fire Priest sneaking in, we got Spiteful Druid sneaking in, and Paladin is going to be good, I think. Yeah, I don't think it's been figured out yet. So I think as much as I want to say that it hasn't shaped up the metagame very much, I think we're just a little slow this expansion at figuring things out. I think this is the slowest we've figured things out so far.
Yeah. All right, I think that's we're just gonna put a stop on the questions today because we want to showcase whose meme reigns supreme with the puzzle labs. So we did have a couple of them. One of them was like maybe I'll ask them while we're playing if we have some downtime. But for now, we want to get into the puzzle lab with all of you. Now, all three of us, as a preface, have not touched a single puzzle. So if we look as stupid as I think we will, you've been warned. You had high opinions, at least of two of us, of Firebat and Killer before. I don't want that number to drop any lower than it has to. So I'm just giving you guys a warning.
All right.
I didn't even opened up the solo adventure content because I didn't want to even look at it. So, do we get access to all of the puzzles right now, or is it just like a single wing?
I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's go into it. Our producer Greg.
Puzzle away.
He can choose. So I guess lethal is like one of the ones we can do right off the bat here. Let's maybe do one from each category if we have time. So we don't want to spoil it and show everybody the entire content. Oh, it is actually one from each. Oh, there you go.
Let's do it.
All right, let's just go for the lethal.
All right.
Easy.
This is what Twitch chat's best at.
Yeah.
29 for sure.
We can't look. Oh, that's extra spicy coming from you. We need we need to not look at chat. This is a gentleman's agreement because I usually keep chat open. On this side. All right. I'm guessing it's the
Destroy
same
enemy
every
hero.
time. Do they give? Is it like a random hand that could possibility, or is it the same every time?
All right. We have 4 mana. We can play all of our cards and kill him. We should probably do that.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Ooh,
I think we should probably hero power, deadly poison, cold blood, and kill our opponent.
Nailed it.
You sure you don't want a cold blood first for the BM?
Oh yeah, we could do that.
What? If you cold blood first, do they just like not let you win? Because you're going to win anyways in fatigue. That's right. We
Wow,
could
we
be
won.
taking 30 damage of fatigue. We don't know that.
Ooh, this new solo cannon's tough.
Tough. Well, they easy
Great
into it. They
order.
easy into it.
They do.
Okay.
They do.
All right. Let's play Frostbolt Ice Lance.
Attack right away. Quick and painless.
Yeah, Frostbolt. Ice Lance.
Wow. Oof.
Isn't Frostbolt also technically lethal because they take 1 damage on fatigue?
Well, no, you have to,
I
you have to
don't
kill them
think
that
they do.
turn. I
I'm
guess.
just, yeah, that's true. Okay.
All right. Well,
We could have failed that one.
we could have.
Man. Oh, I played Combo Priest before. I know how this works.
Ooh. Okay.
Stone does
so,
more.
Don't just.
I mean, this is just like.
Yeah.
I mean, the highest damage is Boar,
Abusive.
Rock
Boar
Biter,
abusive, Rock Biter, Wind
Rock
Fury.
Biter, Wind Fury. Yeah.
He's-
Okay, I like that they're giving you more options to mess up, though, right?
Yeah,
They're easing
you
you
could
in.
screw it up.
Yeah, you could play Raid Leader there.
Yeah.
A sick bait.
All right. Oof. This is. I mean, I do appreciate, by the way, that they do have these like easy puzzles for people
Yes.
who like are not necessarily great players, who they're like want to be able to succeed in their initial things. Ooh, now it's getting
Sitting
getting
right here,
complicated.
Kevin. Okay.
Scientists are willing to sacrifice.
Well,
Okay,
do we
so we
trade
have
in
to trade-
the 4, trade in the 3, and then we put the Wolf Rider next to the Flame Tongue and hit him, then the Boar next to the Flame Tongue and hit him, then the Boar next to the Flame Tongue and hit him.
Yes.
Just make sure you put them all next to the
Nice.
Flame Tongue.
Yeah. There we go.
We're doing it.
So yeah, attack and then play.
Whew.
Wait till
Flame
they get to the
Tongues.
Defile
How do they work?
puzzles.
Is there a Defile puzzle? That'd be pretty sick.
I'm sure there are. There's
Oh,
supposed to
is
be like
there?
a ton of puzzles, right?
Oh dear.
I'm pretty sure they get really hard. From what I've heard.
Ooh, this one's kind of interesting. All right.
Oh
Well,
my god, I haven't played Patron Warrior in a hot
why do we have
minute.
we have a shield
Right.
slam?
Well, we play all of our minions. We whirlwind.
Yeah.
We, armor up
Wait,
shield
no,
slam.
oh,
is
we have
fine.
enough. Yeah, we do have enough
Yeah.
mana for that. Okay.
So
Yeah.
you do this, then Whirlwind.
And then armor up shield slam is something. Yeah, his guy, right? Oh no,
Well,
we can't trade. Oh, we armor up
we
shield slam
wanna-
is frothing.
You're
Frothing.
frothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's-
Okay.
This is a pretty cool one, actually. I like this. Yeah,
Yeah,
shield
we
slam
should
the
send that
frothing. Double trade
Yeah,
the 3
the
attacks.
double attack. We don't even need to shield stun the frothing, right? We have enough damage anyway, or no? We do.
No,
need
I
it,
think
yeah.
it's exact.
Yeah, it is.
That one gets tricky. Remember Patron Warrior puzzles?
That's what I was
Yeah.
saying, man. It was 3/3s with frothing berserkers. I was like, oh man, I haven't played
Yeah,
Patron War in a
you'd
hot
have
that
to
one
minute.
spot the
wasn't
lethal against 2 cons with
Necessarily
your
obvious.
War Song
Ooh.
Patron combos.
Okay, so we reincarnate the ticking abomination.
But then we only have. Oh,
Then-
we could reincarnate Ticking Abomination, Leroy attack, reincarnate Leroy attack.
Yeah, I think that's the play,
Sick.
right?
Reincarnate.
Because then
Cool
it
card.
kills off the play. I missed that card. It did some really cool shenanigans with Ancestral Spirit.
And Kelth is
So-
on.
So yeah, we Leroy
Yeah.
attack face, then reincarnate Leroy attack face again.
There's some really cheesy combos where you can like Leroy Ancestral Spirit and then
Get 2 of them, yeah.
yeah, and then if you stuck like Kel'Thuzad on the board back in the day, it's pretty funny. I need to go to the bathroom real quick. You guys got this.
I don't know. I don't know if we can handle this. How many puzzles in are we anyway? Did it tell you? Ooh, this.
We have
Ooh.
double spell power. Double spell power Arcane Blast does 6.
Well, we also. We have 11 total mana, so
Yeah.
we can cast like.
Well, we have. You do the Cosmic
So we just-
Anomaly.
Yeah, you play the Celestial Emissary, Cosmic Anomaly, Arcane Blast the
Fireball
guy,
face.
Coin Fireball face.
Well, you got a Fireball after the Celestial, but yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well-
'cause it's only the one spell.
No, right? Because you need. Oh wait, it's Arcane Blast. Never mind. Yeah, it's an Arcane Blast. So we play the Cosmic Anomaly first,
Yeah. And
and then we Arcane Blast
Celestial-
because it's doubled, right? Yeah.
Sure, that works. Yeah.
Arcane
And then you
Blast
do
that.
Celestial Fireball.
Emissary, Coin Fireball face.
Wait!
Wait, hold
Don't-
on. Oh, it's Coin. You're right. It's your next spell.
The
Oh,
coin's a
is it-
spell.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Oof. Gotta do the right order. Your coin has spell damage +2.
There we go.
Boom.
That's close.
That puzzle teaches you order low.
Yeah.
All right, what did I miss?
We almost lost. We almost gave our coin +2 spell damage.
Nah.
Oh.
Ooh. So we can. Wait.
So if we cube and
I
play
guess
dead,
this one's just super easy, right? You just
We
hero
cube play
power.
dead, and then hero power.
There's no reason to
Hero
play it or
power.
anything. You just hero power, like Pixie hero power Arcane Shot, right? Because the guy who makes it double.
oh yeah, that does it too.
That
No.
works too. Yeah.
Actually, both work.
So hero power first for 4, right?
Okay. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
hero
Pixie,
power.
hero power.
Pixie, hero
Arcane
power, arcane shot. Or you
No,
can
there's
cube
multiple
play
ways to
dead
solve
and hero power for 8.
Yeah, that's more
We
epic.
already hero powered, so we gotta do
Okay.
that Pixie.
I mean, there's any number of ways that you can do this.
I count 2.
Arcane shot.
Arcane Shot face.
Arcane shot the face.
Oh, yeah. That one was like way easier than the previous ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoa.
Okay.
Oh my.
This,
What's the
this
card
looks
in our
like a
hand?
Trollden video.
Destroy all friendly minions.
This is a
Well,
joke, right? Like we just
That's
just
the only
play
thing
it.
we
we
can
only
do.
have one option.
All right, let's see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, it just keeps pulling more abominations.
Okay. We
Cool.
figured the
That was
puzzle out.
pretty
You play the card you can play. Tough one.
All right, so that was all of them for the lethal puzzles. Okay,
We are the
cool.
heroes of Twitch chat. We have found lethal every
All right.
time.
Let's try. Do you want mirror, board clear, or survival? Let's do one more. Which one do you guys want?
Let's do
Let's do
survival.
board clear. Oh, okay.
Okay,
Fine.
board clear. Sure, board clear.
Okay. Well, I think
Alright.
board clears tend to be a little bit more tricky, but yeah,
Defile's a tricky board clear.
right. That involves stuff like that. So let's go board clear. Let's go board clear. Yeah. Yeah, Kibber, would you rather fight? Oh, sorry, hold on. Let me pull up the question here. Would you rather fight 100 Anoyatron-sized Mechathons or one Mechathon-sized Anoyatron? This is one of our questions we didn't answer.
Definitely one Mechathon-sized Anorotron.
Alright.
Yeah, 'cause then you can
Board
just,
into
like,
wisp,
destroy-
other thing into other thing. Easy.
Ooh. All right, well that was our last. We said we'd do one more, so we figured this
that's
one
it,
out.
guys.
Tough challenge.
I'm really glad we didn't make a race out of this.
Oh, somebody in chat says there's more lethal puzzles.
Wait, oh really?
That's what they said. Are there more?
Oh, so did we
Oh.
unlock like another button? that we
Yeah,
can-
eventually-
So now we're just going back to the easy puzzles and these other things. We should definitely go. We should definitely do the
Okay.
lethal puzzles.
Let's just do another set of lethal then. We'll call it there. All right, let's wrap it up. My bad. We're still learning this as well. We didn't look at the menu.
We failed the puzzle of how to get to the next puzzle.
Okay. Oh.
Oh, there's another button. Okay, there we go.
Working on some experiments with
Okay, cool.
Come.
So we get all of these in one go. You can just do it in one sitting.
Time to put this necreo to good use.
Lethal.
So, silence your own minion.
Yeah, you silence the frozen minion. Attack, kill command.
Hey.
Oh, no, you can't kill command. It's 11, but it's
You
7,
just
8,
hear-
9.
Yeah.
7, 8,
Use
9.
hero power.
Yeah. Just silence the frozen minion and hero power. Ooh, tough one.
You can play Mukla in Hero Power too. Just
No,
Wait,
you can't. You
Mukla
can't play
hero
Mukla and hero
power
power.
is-
It's not enough.
oh no, you can't. No, I would have missed it.
Ooh, fire bat.
So
Yikes. Just messing with
World champion. Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah,
I think I would've
it's
played that in that case.
it's actually kind of similar to the Raynad thing from back.
Potion of Madness, Shadow or Death gives us 8 damage. Kind of cool.
Already dead.
Oh yeah. Potion of Madness, one of the 2/2s into the other 2/2.
And then
Yeah.
go face, and then Shadow
Attack
or
You
Death.
attack face for 5.
Yeah. Death your Sylvanas.
Yeah,
Maybe
attack
Mind
face for 5.
Blast?
Death your own Sylvanas. Mind Blast, Holy Smite.
Mm.
Yeah.
You're getting
worked out
tricky.
perfectly.
Good, more interesting. More interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds cool. Yeah.
Something I haven't felt in a while.
I mean, that one's one if you like haven't played with Sylvanas before and don't know like Death Your Own Sylvanas like as kind of a thing that
Yeah.
what is their
exactly.
what is their thing in play?
Hot potato.
0
What does that
10.
do?
What's it do? Can you
Dynamite?
mouse over the 0-10?
What's the O10?
Greg?
Greg.
I think it's. Ah, okay. So we need to kill it while it's on his side to destroy the hero.
Okay.
And every time you hit it,
So
it
we need to
switches
buff
sides.
our frothing as big as we can, right? So we buff our frothing.
Yeah.
Well, so we attack it with the wisp first, right?
And then we can play.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
it'd
we
be
can
a-
play Blood
Blood
Razor,
Razor.
which gives it back.
Working with
Plus. It's
And then we
plus
enrage
3.
our frothing and kill it.
Yeah.
So attack it with the wisp, play Blood Razor. And
Yeah.
enrage
Attack it
our
with the
frothing.
wisp.
Okay. You sure we
Alright,
don't need
what
to do an
Blood
extra
Razor?
step, like inner rage or something, and attack it?
No.
We're gonna enrage the frothing and kill it.
Okay. This is +3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Our frothing's at 6, then we make it go to 9, and then hit it.
Yeah, and then we inner rage the frothing,
Okay. Right.
and then we attack it.
Yep. Then we kill him, right?
Yep.
Boom! 100 damage! Got him.
That's cool. So they're creating these custom cards to help enhance
Yeah.
the scenario, which is good.
Ooh. This one probably, you need to know that you can Forbidden Flame for, with the Blood Mage Summon for 0 or whatever.
Yeah, and it actually does 1
Yeah.
damage with Thalnos on the board.
Right. So you can play...
So we Frostbolt
You
the
10, so you-
3/3, right?
So we can, if we like, Thalnos,
Yeah.
Frostbolt, their guy,
And then Ping,
our
and
own
then-
guy,
yeah,
and then
and then
Forbidden Flame our
Flame.
own guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we play. I mean, the Thalnos first doesn't matter, but we Frostbolt the guy,
Mhm. Yep.
and then
Ping
we
our
ping
two
our
guys.
Undamaged Berserker, or ping that one. Then we flame it for 1. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool
Boom.
interaction.
Yeah.
There's I think because wasn't like there's someone who like had Azure Drake and then they shield slam for one time or something like that. It was like pretty.
Yeah,
fun.
you can do that.
That was the first time I ever learned that interaction. It was so weird.
Why do we have a silenced guy? Why is this just a regular 2/2?
Oh, because we need
Oh, we have Shadow
Step
Step.
it?
Never mind. That's why.
Yeah. Backstab.
Does Shadow Step
3/2.
matter?
So we backstab his guy, Shadow Step the spell damage guy, right?
Well,
Because
attack
well,
for
actually,
attack.
do we Shadow Step the spell damage guy? I mean, we can attack for 7
Yeah.
now.
Attack.
I mean, yeah, Shadow Step is
Yeah.
really good because it gives us spell
Yeah.
damage
Oh
for
yeah.
zero
Yeah.
mana,
No, attack with both guys. Yeah. Shadow Step the spell damage guy.
and then play the spells.
Yeah. Play
Replay it.
cheap
Player
spells.
spells to face
Backstab or Leper Gnome.
Yep.
and backstab lever now. Yeah.
So go all face.
At some point, we got to attack with our Magma Ranger too. So
Yeah. This is a cool one too. I like that.
yeah, this one's not bad.
Backstab.
Kind of cool.
All right.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Okay. This one's kind of interesting.
The wall.
Huh.
Well, we're gonna
We
have
have to
to
rampage our Grom.
We can. Yeah.
Like that has to happen, and then how do we get through the wall? So we
So
want
if
to kill the
you-
abomination so it lands up our cleave somehow.
Do we
at some point.
do we Blood Mage? Hold on.
A Blood Mage Whirlwind.
Blood Mage
and-
Whirlwind. We do 3 to everything, and then we
Oh, Shield Slam to 6/5 as well.
well, we don't need. Oh yeah.
So you Blood Mage, then then Shield Slam to 6/5, then Whirlwind, and everything dies, and then Grom can go face.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
and then
get to
just
kill the
him with Grom.
abomination with your weapon, and then Grom.
Yeah,
kills
kill the
him.
abomination with weapon. Yeah. So first we shield slam the 6/5 for 1,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and now we whirlwind for 2,
Yeah. Grom survives at 1 after we.
and now we attack the fatigue, and then we attack for 13 through the 15. Boom.
Yes. Teamwork. Okay. Last challenge, and then
All right.
that's it for today.
What's going on with the new cards?
What is that?
What are
Can we
these
hover over
0
the
cost
bottom
things in
left?
our hand? Fresh on your mana crystals.
Oh.
No. So this is just
We're just doing the paladin OTK.
yeah. So we just play Uther.
Yeah. This is a
So
construction.
then we play Beardo. Well, we use the thing, reset our mana crystals.
Mhm.
Then we play Beardo.
Can also just pixie it.
Do we have to
too.
kill one of our own guys?
Oh, no, you
guys?
can't.
We need room.
Yeah, we need room. You're right.
So-
we need room.
you play Beardo, you hero power, right?
Yeah.
And then we Hammer of Wrath one of our own guys, one of the
No,
1/3s.
Don't we Pixie so we can hero power and then do hammer after?
Well, you is that better? I don't know that it matters.
I just care about efficiency with mana in case we need it. Okay, we can do hammer wrath first.
Well,
Okay, sure.
Guys,
No, I want to see how this works out.
Sure, then we hero power. Well, this I actually think does matter because now we don't have a reset available, right? I think we screwed up. I think you had to
No,
hammer
now
first.
now we battery pack and then hero power, then hammer wrath hero power.
Right, but we battery pack, now we get a reset.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
works.
now
It's
now
it's somewhat
we're good.
forgiving.
now
Yeah.
you play Hammer Wrath and you're
Yeah, this is fine.
I don't know, man. 2 mana left is not exactly super forgiving, I think, but it was scary for half a second. Hey, look at that.
Boom.
Okay.
But they added that new animation of like you dying.
Yeah, it's the same animation.
All right.
The Four Horsemen's
Well-
with the thing.
We gave you guys a little taste. You know, it was a little. I think we were just starting to get into the parts where it, like, kind of tickled our brain, and we actually were thinking about it. But hope we gave you guys a taste about, you know, what the Puzzle Lab has in store. Maybe next week we can tackle more of it. It'll be a little bit fun project we can work on for Omnistone throughout the weeks. So don't play it anymore, okay, Firebed or Kayla. I'm gonna try to refrain as well. Let's get final words. Kibber, why don't you go first?
Just like what I said, you know, I think that this is the best metagame that we've had, like, right after release of expansion in quite a while, and I'm still very much enjoying it. You know, both experimenting with, like, a bunch of new decks still, and trying to find new stuff. So having a lot of fun.
Great, Firebet.
Yeah, I agree. I think the metagame's really good. You're not going to hear me say that too often. So, you know, that's a very high praise coming from me because most of the time I'm going to tell you the metagame's pretty bad. But Boomstay's been quite solid. Enjoy it so much. I'm playing on all 3 servers, so
And there you
it's
go.
pretty sweet.
Not much more needs to be said, at least on my end. If you guys missed any part of this episode, you can check out all of our content on YouTube. Kilburn, Firebat, Stan Sivka, and Zalay, and all of them post videos as well about Hearthstone. If you guys want to level up your gameplay or just want to hear concepts and discussions, it's definitely a good source of all things Hearthstone. And of course, if you guys want to get in on some of the action like the mailbag or keep up to date with posts, make sure to follow OmniSlash on social media, mainly OmniSlash on Twitter. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you guys back next week for more Omnistone. Until then, have a good night.